How's it going, guys? So we just finished, today was the last day of semifinals. So we finally have our finals matchup. SKT beat beat Orihen the other day, and then this morning Ku Tigers beat Fnatic. And so we have an all-Korean final with SK Telecom versus the Ku Tigers. It's a rematch of the finals that we've seen in the last two LCK finals. So we've seen this matchup. We know what to expect. We'll break that down in another video, though. We'll go over the semis first. So we'll just jump into matchup number one. We had SK Telecom against Orihen. Game one was actually relatively close. Telecom started EasyHoon in the first game, and you could tell strategically that makes sense. Strategically, starting EasyHoon makes sense. Faker is the more aggressive player. While EasyHoon and Peke are more mirrors of themselves right now. Peke is not playing a lot of assassins. He's playing a lot of control mages and a lot of just farming mages. And so EasyHoon does the same thing, except EasyHoon does it better than Peke. And so instead of risking a clash of different styles or stylistic choices, it's better to match the player with like a mirror of him, like a better mirror of himself. Just to give it's gonna guarantee you an edge rather than having Faker maybe risk anything. And he probably wouldn't. He probably do okay anyway. But still, just from a strategic standpoint, it makes more sense to put EasyHoon in that first game. But anyway, jumping into the game, the first game was very close. Orihen had a very quick early lead. A lot of just really strange team fights, interesting team fights, and Orihen jumped out to a sizable gold lead. SKT fought back though, ended up winning that game, taking it. And so it looked like it was going to be a relatively competitive series, which was kind of cool. In the second game, they started EasyHoon again. And that game was not very close. That game, I think, lasted about 30 minutes. Just a very kind of quick game, very standard thing for SKT. Orihen just looked kind of out of their element, like they were outmatched. And so, very simply, just lost that game. And the real telling thing was in Game 3. Game 3, they started Faker, and that was a complete stomp. Orihen had absolutely zero chance. There was no like, oh, well, maybe they can do this, maybe they can... No, it was just like, SKT is going to just wreck your face in. It was a very interesting series to watch, just because you can see the progression of like Orihen, or of SKT really. You can see SKT sort of feeling out Orihen, then kind of adjusting, and then finally saying, okay, we got it, and then putting Faker in, and then just wrecking. And you can see like the evolution across the series, where Orihen had a very hard time adjusting to anything SKT was doing. It looked like they were doing just kind of the same thing over and just trying to do it better than they did the last game, which doesn't really work in a best-of series. And I think that goes back to the whole debate of the LCS needs to go to a best-of-3, so teams can get used to making adjustments on the fly and things like that. But I mean that's a discussion for a different time. But you can really tell how much more comfortable SKT was in a best-of-3 than Orihen. And yeah, I won't even say Orihen played bad. It's just SKT played extremely well and played better. So we'll go ahead and move on to the series that we saw today. It was the Ku Tigers against Fnatic. Again, it was a very close matchup in the first game. Fnatic got a pretty sizable lead. I think an 6 to 8k gold lead throughout the game, and then Ku Tigers did the typical Ku Tigers thing of just never backing down and then just catching back up. And so they caught back up, ended up winning that first game, and then snowballing down from there, and again making adjustments as they go. And you could tell that Fnatic was out of their element in terms of you could tell Ku Tigers was making adjustments and playing better all around their weaknesses in games 2 and 3, while Fnatic was just again trying to do what Orihen did and do the same thing just a little bit better, and that wasn't very effective. Not much to say other than that, other than it really shows how important that the series mentality is for these teams to have, and how much more practice that the Korean teams have over the European teams. And so that was a major factor, at least in my opinion, of why they lost these, or why the Korean teams won this series. I don't think there's a huge skill discrepancy. I think there is a little bit. I think that the Korean teams are just a little bit better strategically and mechanically, but I think it's relatively close. Just the coaching aspect and the sort of series mentality of being able to make adjustments on the fly and change things up and prepare more things is what's helping the Korean teams not win but dominate in this fashion. I think they would still win if the LCS was in a best of 3 format. I think it would be a lot closer. I still think the Korean teams would win, but I think it'd be a lot closer. It wouldn't be as embarrassing or as demolishing as this was. But yeah, we'll go ahead and break down the finals in another video. Come back and check that out.